So we're in a transition, and we're now rebranding into Be Positive. We're in a time, let's face it, where people are just being flogged with negativity and bad news and toxicity and just elevating to hatred. And what we want for this podcast is be positive as a mantra, as an attitude, as something that we can call out in those moments where we're challenged and remind ourselves that we do have optimism, hope, and encouragement. And so we invite you in. Enjoy the Be Positive Podcast and enjoy hope, optimism, and encouragement.
I was a lifeguard, summer job. I was in the deep end, kind of flirting with another lifeguard. Decided I'm going to dive over the top, but hit the top back of my head on the bottom of the pool. Paralyzed, spinal cord injury.
You became a premier decorated athlete post-injury.
When I moved to California, I started playing wheelchair rugby and got a gold medal in Australia.
In Australia, in Sydney.
Yeah, the Paralympics there, yeah.
Welcome back to Be Positive. We're right here at Lion Air Museum. It's an incredible venue, Dan, when we're looking across these vintage World War II and all the way through the Korean conflict, military airplanes seated looking out across the tarmac at John Wayne Airport, 3-story glass panel doors that allow us to look out at the air traffic and air traffic to look in at these unbelievable testimonials of history. And this was the very reason that General Lyon put this together, to share the stories of the greatest generation, and including the B-17 bomber that's just over to the left of us, one of the few remaining flying fortresses that's still airworthy. All these planes are routinely taken out to air shows and flybys and whatnot, but when you see the B-17 bomber and they rev up all 4 of those engines, and it echoes across Orange County.
The fuddy-duddy down there?
The fuddy-duddy.
Love it.
Yeah. And so
Great.
Maybe someday you and I can get up in that aircraft. That would be a treasure, right?
Yes, please.
Yes, please. So we're talking about canine companions and the impact of these service animals. Canine Companions, an organization that started, I believe, Paige Mazzoni, the CEO, said 1975, and now has raised up and awarded to various individuals over 8,000 dogs across their career. And these animals are unbelievable. We're going to hear about Dan's testimony of how life was, how life changed, and the impact of the canine companion service dogs that have come into his life, and really showcases the 3 trigger words about our show: optimism, hope, and encouragement. And that's really the messaging that we want to extend, where we're looking at what's right in the world instead of staring at all the things that are wrong. There's plenty of ammunition out there of looking at wrong things, and we want to be a voice, and want your story, Dan, to be a voice on encouraging positive things in the world. And so with that, you started out in life up through age 16 differently than where you are now. What happened at 16?
Yes, sir. I was a lifeguard, summer job, and during one of our breaks, where all the kids had to get out of the pool, and lifeguards can have 15 minutes just to relax and swim. We'll do whatever we want. And I was in the deep end, kind of flirting with another lifeguard, and
Rare for a 16-year-old.
Yeah, we do that. And so our break was getting over with, and so she started swimming from the deep end to the shallow end, and I got out of the pool in the deep end, and I decided I'm going to dive over the top of her as she's swimming to the shallow end. And it was about 3 feet of water where I dove in, and it was like last second I realized she was away from the edge further than I thought she was. And so I had to change my dive last second to not hit her. And so I dove straight out and sort of straight down, somersaulted over the top of her and missed her, but hit the top back of my head on the bottom of the pool and instantly broke my 5th and 6th vertebrae.
Yeah, crushed him.
Broke my 5th, shattered my 6th.
Shattered your 6th. And then with that, what happened?
Ended up being paralyzed, spinal cord injury, paralyzed from, that's about the armpits down. 2/3 of my arms are paralyzed. I have very little feeling in my hands. My fingers don't, I can't grab anything. My fingers don't move.
Yeah. The categories I don't like so much. People would say, oh, he's a C6 quad or C5 quad. What do you do with that?
Not worry too much about it.
Not worry. No impact.
No, I don't. The word quad or quadriplegic isn't a negative connotation to me. Back in the 80s, it was used as a derogatory
Right.
term. Yeah, darn quad.
Well, and even the fast forward, people talk about you're disabled. And as we heard Lance's story in our last episode, and I'm certain we're about to hear with you, you don't view yourself as disabled, do you?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
I think. I try not to let it stop me from doing things.
Right.
It obviously slows me down.
Maybe that's a better way to put it. It's not a negative connotation. It's just the way things are.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know in the 80s when I first got injured, they were coming out with these new politically correct terms. And what was one of them? Differently abled.
Differently able.
And it really bugged me.
I would think that would be more irritating than just...
My brothers teased me about that.
Yeah.
You're not disabled, you're differently able. And I was like,
Giving them ammunition.
Yeah.
Just what you want to give brothers.
Yeah, three older brothers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we were meeting earlier, you were talking about, okay, you went in, hit the back of your head, C5 injured, C6 crushed, but you didn't think you were injured.
That happened. I had no pain. I just couldn't move. And she didn't know. The other lifeguard didn't know that I was injured either, and she sort of just grabbed me and started dunking me up and down, up and down, up and down. And when you get paralyzed in that way, you lose all your chest muscles, your abdomen, all these muscles that help you breathe.
Yeah.
And so the only thing working was my diaphragm, and it was really weak.
Yeah.
And I wasn't used to just breathing with that. So I'd be able to say like one word every single time I came up from being dunked up and down. And it was like, no, wait, something's wrong. I can't move. And finally she realized something seriously was wrong.
Yeah.
But I still didn't think it was serious. One of my brothers was managing the pool that night, and I actually tried to talk him out of... I couldn't move. They're holding me still in the water. And I couldn't, and I'm still trying to talk him out of calling an ambulance. And just, if you can get me home, I can sleep this off. No problem. I'll be fine in the morning.
Unbelievable. So panic wasn't a part of the component?
No.
When did it hit? When did you realize?
I think it hit more when I was in the ambulance and they put a IV in, and I couldn't feel that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what happened?
Yeah.
Did I break my neck? And they're like, well, we can't say anything. We don't know until you have x-rays. So I remember the doctor came in after the x-rays and told me that I broke my neck and I'd most likely be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, use a wheelchair for the rest of my life. And I remember I closed my eyes. I think my dad said a single tear came down. And then when I opened my eyes, everything seemed like I accepted it.
In a moment.
I was a little bit of troubled childhood. I had three older brothers. I was in the shadow, I always felt. And I was depressed and somewhat, thoughts of suicide run through your head. I don't think it wasn't to the point where it ever happened, but, just kind of a thing that would happen.
I had my trouble spots. An older brother, I always found out how I could hit him in the fist with my nose, and it never worked out very well. I always made his hands hurt.
Well, the last day when I got injured, my brother that was about a year older than me, I got in a fight with him right before I had to go to work.
Yeah.
And I kicked him in the bad pair area.
Yeah.
And left.
Yeah.
So that was my last fight.
Yeah. Three older brothers. Are they still giving you grief? Are they still just being older brothers?
For the most part. I mean, they never really treated me too much differently after I broke my neck. It was all same old, and they were very supportive on helping me get out and do things and make me go out and do things. Wouldn't let me just sit at home.
Yeah. In the rehab and early on, was there ever these hopes of, okay, maybe we can do this and it'll restore movement or restore mobility, or was that not a part of the recovery?
That never went into my wish list. I mean, I always wanted to recover. It'd be nice.
Right.
But I was a complete injury, never had any any feelings come back from below the level injury or anything like that. So never really had much hope for that.
Yeah. And what people don't realize, there's so many misperceptions, I think, in terms of people looking at someone that has been disabled or differently abled. You're going to just give me grief for saying that. But in terms of you became a premier decorated athlete post-injury.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I broke my neck in '86, and I was an athlete at the time. I wrestled varsity my freshman and sophomore year, and I was a swimmer. I pretty active, and I just needed a outlet, so I kept on trying to find sports to help pass that thing. And I was in Wisconsin, and I tried some sports, tennis and wheelchair basketball, which were not sports that were good for me, just with having the paralyzed, 2/3 of my arms paralyzed, but I could still push a wheelchair. When I moved to California in 1991, I started playing wheelchair rugby.
Yeah, you went to a lesser impact sport with wheelchair rugby.
Wheelchair rugby is a sport that's designed for quadriplegics.
Yeah.
So you have to have 3 or more limbs impaired to be able to actually play.
Yeah.
And I became fairly good right away. Made the '93 USA team and got a gold medal over at Stoke Mandeville International Wheelchair Games in England. And then tried out for the '96 USA team, did not make it.
Right.
And it was a demonstration sport in the Paralympics that year.
Okay.
And then I tried out again in 2000 and made the team and got a gold medal in Australia.
In Australia, in Sydney.
Yeah, the Paralympics there, yeah.
Yeah. Take us there. What was it like, the award ceremony? You're representing the United States. It's the anthem, the U.S. anthem, United States anthem that's playing.
It was just a weight of all these things that I put. It was hard to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's working out almost every single day and going and doing all these things and being the things you had to do just to be an athlete and play at that level. Sort of comes down on you at that point, and everything you did feels like it was worth it at that point.
Yeah. Talk to me about your coaches. I grew up as an athlete, played professional tennis, had coaches that poured into me, and in many ways shaped and formed who I am today. Your coaches.
I've had several coaches. The first coach I had was it was the parent of one of the other players that was on the team, and I don't think he was a coach but he did such a good job. Really guided the team and got the team going as just a club local San Diego team, and he brought us to our third or fourth year that we were a team. We won nationals and won 3 years in a row and kind of went undefeated for those 3 years.
Yeah.
And that
undefeated
brought me,
for 36 months.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
I never did that in tennis. Let me tell you.
It's everyone's going for you at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
with your teammates, did any of them have, what's the word I'm looking for? Bitterness or resentment? Like that was their driving force. Like, I'm going to prove my value now that I've been injured.
It may have been a start for some of them, but I don't. It's not a driving force.
It's not a driver.
No, we just love the sport and needed an outlet.
Yeah.
It wasn't really necessarily trying to prove anything. It was just something that was fun to do, and we're able to take it far.
Yeah. A gold medal. Yeah, I would say that's taking it far. I want to see that gold medal. Come on. I was sharing with you if I had a gold medal, which I don't, never came close. Tennis did get entered into the Olympic Games, but at that point it was open up to all the professionals.
Yeah.
And so, the top 5 in each country played for their country. I was just underneath the top 5. Let's just leave it general. And so didn't have that chance. But I was telling you that if I had a gold medal, it would be behind a plexiglass case, laser locked, cordoned off. You know?
I don't have that quite security for it, but
Yeah.
it's in a shadow box with my jerseys and
Yeah.
a couple pictures of the team and in the Oval Office meeting the president when the whole Olympic and Paralympic team got to go to the White House.
Yeah.
Just some key moments that were really nice to remember.
Were those in those moments, and similar to my question about the award ceremony, did you ever have these flashpoints? It can't get any better. Did you ever think that way?
Um, well, when we're in the we're like famous. I mean, it was really weird being in the Olympics and Paralympics. Anytime you left the Olympic Village, you're signing autographs, and people, come up to you all the time. Even after the games, I stayed 10 days extra, and people came up to me at farmers markets and talked to me about it. And it's kind of, you just don't be a famous like that and
Yeah.
have to sign autographs and
Yeah.
all these things. It was nice to have that for a little bit, but realize that's not a life that I would like to have.
Yeah. Few know the other side of that, and always having your pant leg tugged on with
Yep.
need you here, need you there. I didn't have that in my tennis career, although I shared this story previously, and I chuckle about it now with when I played at Wimbledon, and you carry a racket bag around the grounds of Wimbledon, and you're automatically in this elevated air, the superstar category, even though I was Joe Nobody.
Right.
And so people would come up with the programs, and kids would show up with their programs and ask for your autograph. And I'd always flip over to John McEnroe's page and sign. And I was just fine with it, and they had no idea. So I took that level of fame. That's the only fame I had.
I remember being on a ferry, traveling from the Olympic Village area to Sydney, and there was a school, a group of kids, and I was signing the whole time.
Yeah.
It was just people, it's all around me and just hand me paper, sign.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird, but kind of fun for a
Yeah.
little while.
I'm thinking. Canine Companions. Who's next to you?
This is Mr. Van Netter.
Mr. Van Netter.
Yeah, he's 6 years old. He's my third service dog from Canine Companions. I retired shortly after the 2000 Paralympics
Right?
with some medical issues, having blood pressure issues, and having a lot more issues with heat and overheating. Because with a lot of spinal cord injuries that break their neck, we don't sweat, and so we can overheat really easily.
Yeah.
And
Sydney's not favorable for that.
it was October.
Oh, it was. So you didn't have
it was
the
really
severe humidity.
It was between their winter and
Yeah.
summer.
Got it.
So they're just different than us.
Yeah.
We had to go a little later than our summer games to be over there.
When you were introduced to your first dog, did you have expectations?
I didn't have much. Retired. I was retired about 6-7 years from playing rugby. And I kind of went into a big depression for several years. That I felt like I was just floating in life, and just kind of everything was passing me by.
Post gold medal,
Yeah.
you became depressed.
Yeah.
You had maybe some influence to be depressed before. Why after?
I felt like I was going through a whole injury again because just having troubles, more pain, more troubles pushing a wheelchair, getting around, taking a lot longer, getting in and out of a car.
Right?
So I went into just a big depression with that, just
Yeah.
trying to deal with slowly losing more and more.
Yeah.
I mean, I shut myself off from life for a while.
Isolated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could your family see it? Did
Yes.
they see you withdraw and
Not
withdraw and
immediately.
withdraw again?
Not immediately, but
Yeah.
they did
Yeah.
eventually, but they all. I moved out here from Wisconsin, so I don't have any family that lives around me, so they're not seeing these day-to-day things that are happening.
Right.
But
And
when they did find out, they flew in and supported what they could do.
Yeah. So you're introduced to your first dog. His name?
My first dog was Cinnamon.
Cinnamon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was a Lab Golden Cross.
Yeah.
Looked like a yellow lab. She was raised at Miramar Brig, which is a prison in San Diego at Miramar
Right.
military.
Yeah. And was there an instant connect, or did it develop over time?
I I felt pretty instant with it. I did not feel she was.
Yeah.
But we found out 2 years later when she was 4 years old that she had cirrhosis of the liver and liver failure from chronic active hepatitis. And so she had to semi-retire and then retired a year later when she was 5.
Yeah.
A caregiver of mine adopted her, and so I still got to see her
Yeah.
4 or 5 days a week while I got my next dog, which was Nara.
Nara.
Yeah, which totally different personalities. Nara was way more affectionate. Cinnamon was aloof but not feeling good, so I think that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
So I asked for a dog that was a lot more affectionate.
Mm-hmm.
And this second one was definitely that.
These dogs, when you're paired with them, do you go into a room and they have 5 animals there and there's this natural connection, or is it a selection, a pre-selection, and then you're awarded the animal? How does that work?
The trainers do all the selecting. We don't have a choice on male, female, black, yellow, golden lab, more traits or whatever. We don't have any of those kind of input. We can give that input, but that's not a guarantee or anything. So the trainers do it off of, somewhat personality, but also job.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with what job they're going to do and if they're able to do that job.
Yeah.
And they expect the bond to come in.
Yeah.
At some point, then.
So the job that not Cash, but
Van Etter.
Van Etter, the job that Van Etter does. He has a number of jobs, but the primary things.
Main job is picking up things I drop. I drop things all the time. Just with having fingers that don't work. So like I drop my wallet, my keys, my remote controls, all these things. Packages that the mailman leaves at the bottom of the stairs. All these things that they'll retrieve for me.
What about on the emotional side? Can they sense that you're having a rough day or an off day and bring comfort, or is that not a part of it?
I haven't really noticed that.
Yeah.
With with any of them.
Yeah.
That they really respond too much to having a bad day. Now other people, I'm one of the few people that let other people pet my service dog. Kind of mostly because of Cinnamon. I see how good she did with the inmates, and so I kind of considered Cinnamon my service dog and the world's therapy dog.
Yeah.
And so I would let people pet her, and it's amazing how many people that would pet one of my dogs and be like, "Oh, I needed this today."
Yeah.
I've been having a bad day, and I just needed, and so I don't know. And they sometimes choose who they want to pet them.
Yeah. That's a common question. We even get that now as a puppy raiser. Can I pet them? And there's almost at first a distance. Do you notice that where they don't approach?
Well, for some, yes, and some don't even. I'll have a sign on him that says, "Please do not pet," and people will come and pet him and go, "Oh," and then they'll read it out loud and go, "Oh, but that doesn't mean me."
Yeah, there you go.
No, not you.
Sounds like something I would do.
Yeah.
We've been talking about some of the quotes of Nicholas Vujicic, who's Australian-born without arms and legs. And he made this comment. I wanted to share it with you. He says, "Pain is pain. Broken is broken. Fear is the biggest disability of all and will paralyze you more than being in a wheelchair." Are there moments that you've been fearful, that you fought fear? Or has that not been an influence? Just flat out scared.
I've done things that I was scared to do. I mean, skydiving or zip lining that you just do.
You got 3 jumps under your belt.
Yes, 3 skydives.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. My older brother got me into that.
You going to jump again?
I don't know if that's in the cards yet. He doesn't do the tandem jumping anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
Jump 1, you see a perfectly good plane flying away from you. What are your thoughts?
First thought is that's not a perfectly good plane. I don't know if you've seen these planes that go up for skydiving.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Good
you have a parachute.
But it might be sort of morbid to think. But if I was going to die that way, at least I'm going out the way I want to on my own terms.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was sort of the thought. I'm looking down and I'm like, well, if this is it, this is it. But let's have fun doing it.
Reminds me of a Jack London quote in his life credo. He wrote that he would rather be a blaze across the sky than a dark and distant, sleepy planet.
Exactly.
If you're going to go big.
Yep.
Yeah. With Canine Companions, you do some work with them. You speak at different events.
Yes.
What's the vision? Are you encouraging more people, or is there a long line of people that are just waiting to get animals?
Yes and yes.
Yeah.
When I go out and give talks about it, I have a couple different to get volunteers, get people, puppy raisers, into seeing it. Maybe reach somebody that knows somebody that needs a service dog or could use one, or just an individual that could use a service dog. My first, I worked at Maricosta College, a junior college in Oceanside, and
What'd you do there?
I worked in the Math Learning Center.
Okay.
So I also went to school there. So I knew someone there that worked there, and she started puppy raising, and so that was my first real sight into puppies and this thing. And then a friend of mine talked me into doing a free public tour at Canine Companions that they do once a month.
Yeah.
And I went to the tour, talked to Lance, and signed up. Started the paperwork that very same day.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the encouragement, to look at an opportunity like Canine Companions and get started and have that kind of influence in your life. These animals are nothing short of miracle makers, and they have impact, not just in the skill sets that they do, but just in terms of what I describe certain friends of mine that are just pure joy givers.
Yes.
And Van Nenner is a joy giver, I think.
Yes, he is.
We've got our own little puppy that's on the front side of all of this, 3.5-month-old Harold the Sixth.
What a great name.
Harold the Sixth, the name that's so bad it's good. And he's being raised up. We'll see how he comes along, but he's been already in that joy giver bucket for us in little ways.
Yeah.
And so don't have the scope of understanding of what these animals can do personally, other than seeing the impact on you and the impact on Lance and the impact on so many others. So encourage you to check them out, caninecompanions.org, and learn more about the organization and learn more how they're an extension of what we talk about here at BePositive, with optimism, hope, encouragement, and living your life as that ambassador of what's right, staring at what's right. Thanks for joining us on the BePositive Podcast. You can find us at YouTube, Spotify, Apple, on social media at BePositive Cause, or at our website, bepositive.life. This is the home of optimism, hope, and encouragement. We invite you to join us and become an ambassador of optimism.